Hello everybody, what's going on? My name is Sir Medieval, and today we're going to be talking about some Astellia Online. I just got done with a 12-hour nap right before I started some work today, and I just got off to talk about a little bit of Astellia on my break. What the hell is this? Sorry, I'm in the middle of doing a quest, but I wanted to talk about the game itself today because I just reached max level yesterday and stayed up about 27 hours to do it. Overall, I feel like we really got a good experience with, the game itself and all that it has to offer. It's still just scraping the surface, however, but I can say that this is something that could definitely be seen as, although it is a classical experience, it's something that they just kind of advertise for, and it is true. And this is a game that you would see in like 2013, 2014. It's nothing modern day or nothing that would be considered by most to be special. There is interesting concept, the Astell aspect being the most interesting that I've seen, and I love the aspect as well. I've loved games with companion systems like Guild Wars, the original. I've loved companion systems like Star Wars, The Old Republic, other ones like that as well. And this one does have a companion system that does build on that aspect, and a lot of these companions are very important to the gameplay, both in PvE senses and PvP. You have different ones, all kinds of different ones that have different roles like tanking, buffing, healing, DPS, etc. And I can say that there's really cool storylines behind them. I think that this is a game that actually does kind of try to pay attention to the story itself. It does have a pretty intriguing story, although of course most people won't really care about it or pay attention to it, but it is a nice touch. Most games that come out from the East, most games in general these days that are new and upcoming, they really don't care about the storyline. They just kind of toss it out there and try to focus more on the gameplay features. But once that's done, once people are kind of done with the gameplay and bored of that part, then, having a good story, having a good lore, that could be something to potentially get interested in as well for some people. It helps one way or another because some of the player base might care about the story, some might not, but the ones that don't, they might last longer on the game if it's got an impelling story, or a compelling story rather. But they do a lot of voice acting in the story. I would say that a lot of their NPCs, conversations and things like that are voice acted. The Estelles will also have random conversations, and sometimes they will be voiced as well. The one that's going on right over here is a good example of that. And they do have some really cool character design. I would say that in terms of the armor, just to kind of showcase it a little bit, now this is a kind of a pros and cons thing as well. The con I would say about the armor is that this is the end game armor. This is basically the level 50 purple grade armor that I'm using right here, which also does have a legendary variant to it. And as you can see, it might look very familiar. This is some armor that is actually very similar to what you would see in like the cash shop, for instance, or the lower level equipment. Like for instance, this right here is what that looks like. Now that I'm not wearing the costume itself, I'm wearing regular armor there. This is my costume. This is the legendary one, which I do think has a really cool design. But one thing that I will say is that you'll notice very early on that as you're leveling, I would say early to mid game, you'll start to see some really cool armor designs. This has got to be one of my favorites thus far, but I'll show you this one for instance. You see how that kind of looks more unique. It has that pauldron right there. It kind of looks similar to the purple version of the previous one that I wore, but you can see that there are some key differences in there. And this one is the one that I would say is probably the best that I've seen here. Now this is something that would be considered in-game gear in my eyes. You got the spikes on the side there. You definitely don't want to get the hug. You don't want to get a hug from this dude. You got that cloth tapestry or whatever you would call that hanging from his waist. I highly think that this is something that would definitely fit in the game. So that's one criticism that a lot of people have kind of talked about with the game, and one that is pretty valid. In terms of the end game gear, I think that they would need more. One way that they could solve that potentially is, I would say when they start to bring out raids, or if they do consider it, hopefully they do, because I want to talk about what this game would need to, kind of keep on going and to work out. But once they bring out raids, for instance, if they were to create different brackets of it, maybe have a normal mode for people that are more casual or just normal that want to play the game and enjoy, experience everything, have the normal mode there. And then also have a hardcore mode or a legendary mode like they do the dungeons for the hardcore players, the ones that really want to, capitalize on the raiding aspect. Because the game itself, In terms of the dungeons and things like that, which is one thing I'll talk about after the cash shop, they do actually have great mechanics to them. You know, throughout the levels, starting at about level 35-ish, you'll notice that the mechanics start to really kick in for the dungeons, and some do tend to offer a little bit of a challenge. Now, there is a scenario version, there is a solo mode that you're seeing here in this menu. There's also a party dungeon mode as well that you're seeing here, and then finally the legendary dungeon. And as you go up in the difficulties or the stages, they do actually get mechanics added to them as well. So that's something I think is really neat and would really work out in raids. So in conclusion, if this game did have raids, I would say that in terms of armor, weapons, things like that, maybe the normal version could have a different looking type of, you know, weapons and armor, or different color variation and effect variation than the hardcore mode or legendary mode, and vice versa kind of thing. Would be really cool to see, especially if the raiding gear is different than all the other in-game gear as well. Crafting gear, if that's different than all the other in-game gear, that would be really cool, just to give people, you know, give people some variation. Maybe if you got different gear through achievements, that look cool too. Kind of give people an incentive to do these kinds of things, and, you know, up people's play times to make sure that they're getting the best that they can get out of the game. Even PvP gear as well would be really cool to see. Even if it doesn't give you stats in PvP, maybe if it's the same as regular gear, as long as it has that different look, variation, effect, I think that would be really nice. And then moving on, in terms of like the optimization for the game, you'll already notice that there are a couple frame drops here and there. I will say that although it does run pretty well most of the time, it does suffer from frame drops in terms of like combat. When you're executing certain skills, for instance, you'll notice your frames drop. Depending on how flashy the skill is, it might spike a little bit there. Also, when you kill enemies, sometimes it might spike right at that moment that they die. Definitely something to work on as well. You'll also notice in terms of the combat that there is animation lock. However, this is something that they've stated, from what I've heard, to be working on, to where you'll be able to cancel out animations and things like that to move again. So that'll be really cool to see as well. But overall, the optimization definitely needs work. In terms of the classes, I will say that they definitely feel like they've been improved. I can't speak too much on the Archer class. I played that one in the last beta. It did feel underpowered early game, but I've talked to people that have said that Archer does feel like it has been improved. It feels a lot better now. Not sure if I can, 100% know how the end game part is of it, because I didn't talk to anybody that did the end game, but they were more doing like the mid game part of it. And same thing for like Mage. Mage feels like it's been really improved, or much better now for some people. Myself as Assassin, I definitely feel like I'm having more fun with it now than in the previous betas. I can't get enough of the Assassin gameplay. It's definitely the best for me, I would say personally, the best one that I've enjoyed so far. And the Warrior itself, I would say that early game it's a little harder to get into, but late game it's something that you could probably enjoy. The Warrior does all right. However, overall, and the Scalar apparently I've heard is pretty good as well, and is okay at soloing, because you have these Estelles to kind of back you up. If you're playing as a healer, you could get a DPS Estelle or a tank Estelle even, and then vice versa depending on what role you're playing. And then also moving on there, the game itself, it does have enough content to kind of hold people over. It's got things like, Battlegrounds, which is the Avalon PvP. Basically, picture like the faction v faction fights you would get in Elder Scrolls Online. Cyrodiil, essentially, is what you're experiencing there. In terms of the dungeons, you'll notice that, and like we said before, they do have a lot of, mechanics to kind of work through. The dungeons themselves, most of them are these are different versions of them essentially. Like this is a solo version, the party version, so you will be doing the same dungeons. However, you do have a couple choices starting right off the bat while we play. And then of course you have the legendary variants as well. When you get to end game, dungeons will be a big part of your gameplay. It's how you level Estelles. You can get better gear, you can even get the higher grades of gear like the legendaries. Avalon will be the main PvP stuff to do. You can also earn loyalty through that to kind of spend in the loyalty shop, which we'll be going over next. And also you can also do the arena fights, which is more like the either solo arena, or you can go for the party arena. It's not yet open because we're currently waiting for the official launch to start. So if you guys are worried that we leveled too fast, don't worry about that. All the stuff is locked out. We won't be able to do that until everybody is in the game, luckily. Also, the last thing would kind of be the Colosseum, which people have already started to do. It's a good way to farm these Atra crystals, which is how you can kind of increase your attributes in your character menu. Really good thing to do as well. Make sure you reset those at in game to use the blue crystals strictly. Don't use those alongside the green ones or the gray ones, kind of thing. And also the party version of it, same thing. There's different difficulties for the actual Colosseum to get you better rewards, kind of thing as well. So that part is pretty cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and get out of combat because I'd like to talk a little bit about the cash shop, just to make sure we go over that topic too. Hold on a second. A good time to kind of talk about the Estelles as well. They have their own special abilities. What I just did there was summon Glacier, one of my favorites, and she could cast her Frost Beam, essentially is what she did there. Another thing to talk about with the Estelles, not only are they, you know, your companions that you can kind of put down here into your Estelle deck. Speaking of which, the Estelle deck down here, depending on which Estelles you have down there, they tend to get different bonuses. So if you combo, let's say Serpent, Rota, and Glacier down on your Estelle deck, what happens is I would get access to the Zombie bonus, which would have a chance of resurrecting me immediately upon death. The higher the level, the higher the chance. It basically means as you increase the Estelle grades, the star rating, 3, 4, 5, this would go up. And as I increase it for Rhoda and as I increase it for Glacier, the same thing is going to happen here and here as well. So that's something that's pretty cool to kind of look out for in terms of upgrading the Estelles. You can do that through the Star Jewel system here. And what that essentially does, once you click on it, you get these Star Jewels in a variety of different ways, you know, through quest lines, dungeons, all kinds of ways. And you can actually use those to increase their stats. Now you have to put them in their respective slots. So right here, I have just the Epsilon one missing. So now I have the Alpha Star, Beta Star, Physical, Delta Star right there, Gamma Star, and it does increase their stats as you use the enhancement. Now for right now, it looks like the +5 is the max. I have Scorpio at +5, at least for the 2nd grade. I don't know if it goes up from there if you get them to 5 grade, but that's essentially how that part works. And then one more thing I want to show you as well. Serpents is a really good Estelle to combine with an assassin because some of our skills actually benefit more if the enemy is poisoned. One thing I want to show you. Oh, come on. All right. Definitely been loving assassin much more. Okay, so essentially you can actually get costumes for your Estelles as well. They're called Estelle skins. But essentially, if you come in here to the Estelle skin part, now you get these automatically, these ones specifically by upgrading the Estelle grade, which is basically the star rating. But these ones are cash shop based, or there's another way to do it as well. But there's different kinds of Estelle skins for each one. And some of them are really cool to work with as well. Of course, the design changes as you go up in the skin, and you can buy them individually, but when you do, you will probably get that one. Is actually really nice. I didn't see that one. Now I will say my favorite is probably going to be Grimoires, which I haven't got her yet, but I'm working on the quest for her right now. Hopefully this quest is going to give me to her, but this one is probably my favorite. She's got such an amazing outfit there. I mean, it looks insane, and she's got different variations of that as well. This one is the one that you can obtain just by increasing her star grade. Now, the way that you can do this to get their skins is what I'm going to explain to you right now. So let's go ahead and get over here. Let's talk about the cash shop. So to start with, in the recommended section, it kind of just shows you, you know, what they sell in the cash shop. They actually did, I'll go ahead and tell you now, they did actually hold true to their promise that they didn't want the cash shop to be pay to win. I'll show you why in a second here, but essentially in this first portion, what we have here is the gem package. Now you have to convert the Bina cash on the website to get these gems, and then you convert them into these as well to get the gems basically. And as you go up, you get bonuses and things of that nature. But down here we have the subscription. Now the subscription here is the premium. This is the 20% player XP, 20% Estelle XP, 30% dungeon ticket recharge time, increase dungeon tickets by 4, 15% Zendar bonus. We're going to go over the dungeon tickets in a second, but they're not sold in the cash shop. There's other ways to get them in game as well. And also, this is the one that I was talking about for the unlimited Estelle costumes. Now you can purchase the Estelle costumes individually, or if you want to, you can also purchase the subscription to get the unlimited Estelle costumes for 30 days. or you can go up and up as you want. And this basically just gives you access to most of the Estelle skins. Not all, because a few of them are not implemented yet, mainly the ones missing from the Korean version. And this last one gives you basically unlimited Blessed Resurrection and unlimited base teleport access. Now, you don't lose XP when you die, so you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But essentially what happens here is that these are the packages for your class, basically. Like, this is for the premium itself. If you want to get a good deal on that, you can do it that way. This is just packages for getting a good deal on this stuff as well. It's as you can see, they're limited by, or they're labeled by the warrior package, assassin class, all the class packages basically. And it includes a mount, it includes an outfit like this as well, and a stealth skin. These are skins, so make sure to note that as well. But essentially that's all that it does. This is a skill preset expansion ticket. That's something that I haven't seen in the cash shop, but essentially what that would do is just give you access to the skill presets themselves, just to add more on there. But it's nothing that's, you know, really gonna matter at all, because it's just for your hot bar. But essentially after that, we have the consumables, which the only thing in there is the Blessed Resurrection scroll, and the only thing in the function section would be the free teleportation. Now that's the only two items in there that are considered, you know, convenience at all. This would be the character expansion ticket. Looks like we're gonna fight with this menu up. This is the storage expansion, and this is the character appearance change. So that means they don't even have inventory expansions in here at all. You can't buy that at all whatsoever. This would be the costume special, which essentially combines the weapon skin and the armor skin together if you want to get a better deal on it. So it would be $18 essentially to convert that for you easily. The weapon skins themselves cost $8 each. And these are the different color variations of those, as you can see. And this is of course just for assassin. They'll look different for the other classes respectively. These are the armor skins, which they're $12 each, and that's why if you wanted to get a better deal on it, you could get the weapon package and armor package. This is the one that I'm probably the most interested in getting. I think this one looks really cool. I'm just torn between the Type B and the Type C, to be honest with you. But as you can see, there's not a lot of variation right now. It's just mainly the weapon, it's just mainly the armor variation itself. They do have a decent design to them, I will say. And then they also have the Estelle skins in here too. Of course, though, not all of them are in here, but essentially these ones will be $12 each or respectively higher. And these would be, of course, more expensive. I would just honestly recommend getting the subscription for the Estelle packages or for the Estelle skins if you're truly wanting them. And then lastly, you just have the mounts in here, the Drake, the however you say that, Nemia, the little dog, which you don't want to get this one unless you're riding the little lolly, or unless you want your character to look kind of funny or weird while riding this thing. It's a mini-me. Then you've also got the charging mount as well, which looks pretty cool. And this one would be the elk, which is probably the one that I'm most interested in getting. I love the way that the design on the fur looks. I think it looks awesome, and I'm excited to try and get that one eventually. Now, in terms of the cash shop as well, it's extremely balanced. That's how, you know, that's everything that there is in the cash shop itself. There's no secrets. Now, right now, that would be a good time to state, hopefully they can hold true to that. I will say that the game's population is probably going to be pretty underpopulated the first few months, just due to the fact that we just got done with World of Warcraft's launch, Classic, and we're approaching the Arcade Unchained launch as well. So more players are going to be pulled away from the game. However, the game will be under a microscope for the next couple of months. It's going to be important for them to kind of hold true to the updates. It's going to be important for them to, you know, try to listen to the player base and, you know, do what's best for them, of course, just to make sure they can retain that player base. And then later down the line, if updates start pouring in and stuff like that, shut up, Rhoda, stop doing that. All right, you're supposed to be excited. Then, you know, we'll have a better chance of seeing players come in. I'll definitely be on the sidelines watching this game as well while I play it from time to time, for sure. I've already reached level 50, so I can experience the end game as I want. And so far, it's been pretty good. Now, I will say the loyalty shop is the second one that I wanted to talk about, which is called the Zendar shop. And essentially, this allows you to basically buy some things that you're not able to get in the cash shop. So essentially the beeswax tokens right here, the which are items that allow you to change bound items to unbound, essentially is how that works. There's the Blessed Resurrection scrolls, which you can get in the cash shop as well. and the dungeon tickets are the ones that are in here, along with the atritonics, which essentially allows you to have a bonus amount of AP that doesn't go away. So it basically makes it so you're able to carry out about 2 Estelles at once instead of just 1, or maybe even 3, depending on how your character's set up. And then it just has the rest: free teleportation, storage expansions, the premium you can get, or you can earn that through loyalty. You can also earn the Astell costumes through loyalty, and the unlimited resurrection and teleportation. And then lastly, it does also have the actual skins in there if you wanted to earn them that way too. Now, one thing to note is that in the Avalon battleground that I showed you earlier, that is actually how you would get loyalty even faster. Now, you do get it every day at certain intervals through the event basically, but you can also get it through the Avalon PvP. Also, hold on, because I think I was just being hailed. What's up? Oh. Okay. There we go. But anyway, the Avalon PvP, the way that it works is essentially it goes on a weekly basis almost, and every time that you join it, you gain contribution and stuff like that. Over time, your faction will start to get more points. You will start to get more points at the end of the week, depending on who wins, depending on who has the most contribution and how much contribution you have, you will earn loyalty. So you'll be able to spend, currency in that Zinzar shop as much as you want, and do it that way. So you'll be able to do, that to earn that stuff. And also you can get some cash shop items through achievements. So if you press Alt O, a lot of these achievements will give you things like Astell cards to get random Estelles that you don't have yet, or you might have, but you'll get experience for them if you do have them. You'll get loyalty sometimes, like I just got. You'll get, in-game items that'll be really useful for trading for, rare stuff. You'll get currency, all kinds of stuff in here. So this is a good thing to always be checking. They do not update proactively. So if you have one that's like a hunting one and you get to 100, but you're trying to get to the 1,000 hunt achievement for monsters, you need to make sure you complete that 100 one. So always keep checking your achievements. One tip I will give you though, definitely make sure to wait on using the ones that give you dungeon tickets, because once you use them, they will do it immediately. So if your dungeon tickets are full down here, then you won't get the dungeon tickets. Basically, it'll be a waste. So hold those off as long as you can. When you start doing the end game dungeons, then you can start doing that. But in the meantime, you don't have to worry about it. Now, in terms of, let's go somewhere else just to have some better scenery as well. In terms of the game itself, I would say that it is a solid game. It is exactly what they, advertise it to be. And although I stayed up pretty much a full day, 27 hours playing it to get to end game, I will say that not everybody's going to like it. I will say that now. If you don't like it, one thing that's cool, the payment model, they actually added the ability to pay for a subscription instead of buying to play it. So there's 2 options, and let me be as perfectly clear on this as I possibly can. You can either buy the game right now. You can buy the cheapest package to get a 1-day early access head start, or if you want to buy the other package, you still can. You can, when it launches, you can buy the game at its buy to play price, which I've heard might go down to about $30, or you can buy the payment subscription plan. You can pay $10 a month instead of buying it to play. $10 would get you 30 days of game time. So that way, if you wanted to test out the game first and at the end of that 30 days buy it fully, you could. Now, you don't have to pay the subscription. It's completely optional, and it's mainly for people that don't feel like they can afford the full price or want to just try out the game and aren't exactly sure. So that's one thing I want to make clear. If you're not sure if you're going to like the game or not, just get the $10 subscription and you'll be hunky-dory. One thing I will say though is that this game, it is a decent one for sure. It does have a lot of work to do. Overall, I feel like the game itself could definitely use, more classes. I feel like it definitely could use raids, like we mentioned earlier, more dungeons, more Estelles, things like that. I think is a really good start for the game. More story expansions, more areas to explore. Absolutely. I want to see a rainy place. Well, no, I'm just kidding. I want to see a winter biome if possible. Would be really cool to have. But overall, the first 6 months of the game, I think, are going to be the most crucial. We're going to see, how exactly the game is going to work. We're going to see, what kind of updates they're planning for us and that kind of thing. So it's going to be really, really good to kind of get an idea of that. And I think that that's going to also be the most important time, because if they decide they want to release on Steam at a later time or anything like that, we definitely need to make sure that they have those updates in place. We got them. We got them. Ooh, holy crap. Now, official rating, I will definitely chalk this game up to being about a 6 or a 7. Just above average, I will say that, because the Estelle aspect and the story aspect, the PvE aspect entirely, how the dungeons have mechanics and whatnot, definitely do set it above your typical, you know, random new release for an MMO. This game does have things, you know, that kind of do set it apart, just like Infinite Realm does with its steampunk aspect. And the fact that the game has airships, mechs, things like that. The fact that the PvP doesn't just happen on the ground, but it happens pretty much at all levels of elevation. I love that fact so much. And their combat is a really fun thing to enjoy as well. This game's combat is definitely something that could be enjoyed. I will say that, you know, some of the classes feel lesser than others, but it definitely needs more classes. I'm hoping that they start talking about after they ungender lock the rest of the classes, because that's something that would also bring it down. All the classes are not gender locked yet, but again, the stuff that I talk about is things that can be improved over time to kind of bring the score of the game up. So essentially right now we're waiting on the other ones. The only ones that are ungender locked right now would be warrior and assassin. You can make a female warrior, you can make a female assassin. We need mage, archer, and scholar. So once that happens, after that, hopefully they start talking about which kind of classes they might be wanting to implement. Hopefully we get, you know, some more ideas about dungeons, raids, what kind of content we'll be getting in the future. You know, maybe if we'll get battlegrounds, something like that. They already have world versus world stuff, so battlegrounds by themselves would be a really cool addition to the game in terms of PvP. Arenas, we got that as well. Maybe some additions to that would be awesome. The game doesn't even need open world PvP at that point, because having, you know, different ways of PvPing out in the world through the Avalon system or battlegrounds or arenas would be more than enough. A housing system, that's probably something that people would probably want later down the line, maybe even guild housing possibly, but we'll see. But overall, I want to say that the game is one that if you feel like you're not able to enjoy the modern day MMOs, if you feel like, you know, you are having trouble when it comes to getting excited about this game specifically, or getting excited about any games, try the subscription. Try this one, even if it's to burn time until other games, it can definitely be used as that. I feel like if you pay $10 or $30 even, you get 400 or 500 hours out of this game. That's, you know, money you didn't spend on single player RPGs that probably just lasted you like 1 or 2 days and you were done. You know, that's money well spent for sure. So what do you think are pros and cons of it that you've seen already, about the optimization, about the way that the game plays? Definitely want to hear it all. Hopefully you'll enjoy it if you decide to get it. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. We'll definitely all answer as best as we can. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll go ahead and end the video after these brief messages. And you guys have a wonderful day. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Later, folks. This video is sponsored by ENEBA, great place to buy games PS4, Xbox, and PC. Please be sure to use code SirMedieval to get a 3% discount, and sign up with the link below to get a €1 bonus. Thanks again for checking out the video, folks, and you have a good one. Later.